Where today we're going to be going over our Week 18 power rankings for the 2024 season. And before we get into this video, when this video is coming out, it will be New Year's Day. So Happy New Year's to everyone watching. But without further ado, let's get into the second to last power rankings of the regular season. The first tier we have is the Patriots at 32, the Browns at 31, the Titans at 30, and the Giants at 29. Now, these teams have been like the bottom four for most of the season, with the Giants being 32 for most of recent. However, they did beat the Colts, whether fans like that or not. They beat the Colts, and these other three bottom teams lost, so I put the Giants above them. I kept the Titans at 30 though, because they didn't get blown out while the Browns lost by 17 and the Patriots lost by 27. Titans only lost by 7, so I kept them above the other two teams, but they're all pretty much the same group at the bottom. Next group we have is the Bears at 28, Jags at 27, the Saints at 26, the Raiders at 25, Jets at 24, and the Panthers at 23. These are sort of the bad teams, but good bad teams. So Bears at 28, the reason I knocked them down a little bit, even though they only lost by 3, it's because they only put up 3 points. Yeah, their defense played pretty good, holding the Seahawks to 6, but that was one of the worst football games I've ever seen, and they only put up 3 points. So the other teams gave us a little bit of something. So I knocked them down too, but they're still a lot better than the Giants, Titans, Browns, and Patriots. Jags at 27, they got a win versus the Titans after they lost to the Raiders last week. They get a win versus the Titans, so I moved them up pretty much just because they won. It wasn't the most impressive thing, but they got a win. Saints at 26, you can pretty much look at them and the Raiders at 25. The Raiders just beat the Saints this last week, pretty easily too. They won 25-10, I'm pretty sure. So I think that warranted them going just above the Saints. And then the Jets and Panthers at 23 and 24. I know they both did not play very good. Panthers lost by what was the score? They lost by 34 to the Buccaneers, and the Jets lost by 26 to the Bills. I just think that the only reason they didn't move is because the Saints lost, the Jags beat the Titans, the Bears put up 3 points, and the Raiders beat the Saints. And if more of those teams got wins or beat better teams, or they might have gone up above the Panthers and Jets. I just think based on what these teams have done, what the Panthers and Jets have done recently, and considering they both played very good teams, I thought they're just going to stay there because I still would take them over the other teams, but obviously they weren't going to get moved up. Next group is the Colts at 22, Cowboys at 21, Niners at 20, and the Cardinals at 19. Cardinals, I thought they should just stay at 19 because it was a close game versus the Rams. They could have won it at the end. Played a decent team, but I would still take them over the other three. And then when it comes to those other three, the Niners, Cowboys, and Colts were at 20, and then the Niners are at 22, and the Cowboys are at 21. However, the Colts lost to the worst team in football, according to my power rankings, and the Giants, whereas the Niners actually played a pretty good game versus potentially the best team in the league in the Detroit Lions. So I thought it warranted them jumping the Colts and Cowboys. And I know the Cowboys got blown out, but again, Panthers also got blown out. Colts lost to the Giants. The Jets got blown out. So, they didn't play good against the Eagles, but neither did the other teams. However, they didn't lose to the Giants. They lost to the Eagles, so I kept them above the Colts, but I gave the Niners that boost due to their competitive game versus the Lions. And then I just kept the Cardinals at 19 because I think they've just played better than all the other teams overall. Next group is the Falcons at 18, the Dolphins at 17, the Bengals at 16, Texans at 15, and the Seahawks at 14. Kind of the same thing with the Falcons. It was a close game versus the Commanders, lost in overtime. Yeah, the timeout and clock management wasn't so great, but Michael Penix played pretty good towards the end of the game there. Outside of the missed touchdowns he had early on, he definitely played very good in that last 2 or 3 drives. And then with the Dolphins and Bengals, two very close uh, type of games. Bengals win in overtime over a good Broncos team, and the Dolphins blow out a bad Browns team. I just thought the Bengals looked better than the Dolphins, so I gave them the one spot edge. Texans at 15. Very disappointing game on Christmas, only putting. I know it's a good Ravens defense, even though their secondary actually hasn't played that great overall. Better recently, but you put up 2 points on Christmas. You give up 31. I just think the other teams that I have above them, mainly the Seahawks, have just played better. I didn't want to knock them below the Bengals or the Dolphins because they're solidified in a playoff spot, and the Bengals and Dolphins aren't. But another disappointing week could knock them down a little bit more. And then Seahawks at 14. I know it wasn't the most impressive win versus the Bears. It's still a win, and they should get the spot over a team like the Texans who put up 2 points and lost, whereas they got 6 points and won. Next group, we have the Rams at 13, the Steelers at 12, the Buccaneers at 11, the Broncos at 10, and the Chargers at 9. Rams at 13, just like the Cardinals, they played a relatively good team. It wasn't the best win, but they got a win. Don't think it deserves to move above teams like the Steelers, Bucks, Broncos, or Chargers, but I would still take them over the Seahawks, Texans, and Bengals. And they've also solidified a playoff spot. Steelers at 12. It has not been a very good stretch here for the Steelers. I know they were missing George Pickens, so that can kind of excuse a little bit of their lack of offense recently, but they had George Pickens against the Chiefs, a secondary that hasn't been great because they put up 10 points against the Chiefs, they put up 17 against the Ravens, and they put up 13 against the Eagles. So it hasn't been a great stretch for the Steelers. So I think that's why I put them below the Chargers, Broncos, and Bucks, who not only did those three teams, or the Broncos didn't win, but two of those three teams won. They just looked better than the Steelers this week and have recently. Speaking of those teams, the Bucks at 11, coming off of their big win versus the Panthers, thought they deserved a huge climb. I'd take them over the Steelers. I'd take them over the Rams. I'd take them over the Seahawks. Broncos at 10. I know they lost, but it was a very good, very close game to the Bengals. And I didn't want to put the Bucks above the Broncos quite yet. I just think the Broncos have been a little more consistent, and I think they have a more well-rounded team than the Bucks, but just by slightly. And then the Chargers at 9 got their big win on Saturday versus the Patriots. I know it's the Patriots, who I currently have at 32, but I think when you blow a team out, the lack of ability from the opponent kind of negates itself, as you did your job and more. And I would just take them over the Broncos and Bucks at 9. Next group, we have the Packers at 8, Commanders at 7, Eagles at 6, and the Ravens at 5. With the Packers and Commanders, I know the Packers played a good game versus the Lions, but they lost. Commanders won, so that's pretty much why I flipped them there. And then with the Eagles and Ravens, yeah, they got wins, but so did the other four teams above them. And Ravens, they did handily beat a good Texans team, and the Eagles handily beat an okay Cowboys team. Nothing like they did their job, just like kind of the Chargers did. I know they played a little bit better teams than the Chargers, but I just think that the other four teams who also got wins played better this week, so I didn't feel like they needed to be moved. And then the last four teams, Vikings at 4, Chiefs at 3, Lions at 2, and the Bills at 1. Same thing with the Chiefs and Vikings. Both just did their job. They got wins. Chiefs over the Steelers in a pretty dominating fashion against a good Steelers team. And then the Vikings in a close win over the Packers. And then with the Bills and Lions, these teams have been flipping back and forth the last week or two. The reason I have the Bills at 1 this week is they completely destroyed the Jets. I know it's the Jets, but they beat them pretty easily. Like it wasn't even a game. Whereas the Lions were in a close game versus an injured Niners team on Monday night. And this is more of a recent thing with the Lions. Their defense has not been great. I know it's injured. I know their defense is hurt. But if it's hurt versus the playoffs, this could give them trouble in the playoffs. They've allowed They allowed the Niners to put up 34, Bears 17, the Bills had 48, the Packers had 31, and then the Bears had 20. So in these last 4 or 5 games, their defense has not been great. And then the Bills just have overall put, I know they had their back-to-back 40s they gave up, and they played the Jets, but I just think based on the last 2 or 3 weeks, the Bills have played like a slightly more complete team. Again, they are the clear 1 and 2, and they could easily be flipped. I just think based on last week, I'd give it to the Bills, just based on how close the Lions played the Niners and how their defense potentially played as well. With that, that will conclude our power rankings for Week 18 of the 2024 NFL season. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, share the video, turn the notification bell on, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.